Today we're going to talk about Taiwanese tea. Taiwanese tea is one of my favorite tea. And the reason I like Taiwanese tea so much is because it's just so easy to make them. Over the past few years, where I see most people make a mistake is either you are using the wrong type of water, which means like tap water, or you put too much. Really, Taiwanese tea is one of those things. Less sometimes is better. Now there are some tea that you want to put a little bit more, but generally about 2 grams to 4 grams, you should be good. Now, if you don't have a scale, so I'm gonna show you how much tea to put in this 100 milliliter guy one. The first step is always heat up your pot. Okay. And now by heating up the pot, you can put the leaf, and you can see this is the first tea we're gonna do is Taiwan Baozhong. So you can see this is open leaf. Now, if you see your Taiwanese tea looks open like this, so if you can like just barely cover the bottom, that's about the perfect amount of tea leaf. Should have a lot of sweetness, a little bit like honey, kind of like sweetness with hints of floral. Now, if you're not sure how much temperature water you want, it's always safe to use around 195 or like about 90 degrees Celsius. Now, the only thing is if you use lower temperature, obviously you want to steep them longer. And if you are like me, don't have that much patience, the nice thing is most Taiwanese oolong, it's as long as it's good quality one, you can use boiling water, which is how I'm gonna do it. So this is about 205, which is right under boiling water. And because the leaf is already open, so there are most Taiwanese tea, they come like in this little bowl. A lot of time with that kind of tea, you want to open up the leaf. Since this tea is already open, you can rinse them if you want to, or you can just drink it right away. So this one, I'm not rinsing it. I'm like doing it boiling water with like about 10 seconds. The color is kind of light. So I can tell the flavor is not definitely not completely out yet. But it's okay. It's still kind of light and refreshing. Now, the second infusion is when the flavor really going to come out. Taiwanese tea is so easy to brew. A lot of Taiwanese tea you can actually do grandpa style. So I'm going to show you that in a second, how to do that really easily. Right? How do you know that your tea leaf is brewed properly? How it's like fill up, even though it was just like a already kind of like open, but now it fill up the whole guy one. And the color, as you can see, it's kind of like Mountain Dewy a little bit looking, but it's a little bit lighter color. So let's try this. One thing about Taiwanese tea, even though you want to use boiling water, you want to kind of like cool it down a little bit. So it's kind of helpful to have like a wider cup like this where it can cool down slightly faster. Something about Taiwanese tea is just give you this refreshing kind of like feeling, you know. And most Taiwanese tea you should be able to do 3 to 6 times. Most of our Taiwanese tea you can do about at least 6 times to 8 times. This is Taiwan Baozhong. It's one of the Taiwanese oolong that tastes almost like a green tea. In fact, some country will call this a green tea instead of an oolong. It has like this perfect balance between a green tea and oolong at the same time. Now most good Taiwanese tea nowadays is kind of like light in color. We have a roasted oolong that is from Taiwan that is like a little bit darker in color, and I'm gonna show you how to brew that also. But for now, I'm gonna show you how to do the bowl brew. So instead of filling up, so earlier with the gaiwan, you want to fill up the whole bottom, just like one layer of like the bottom of the bowl of like gaiwan, and that's about 3 grams. But what about when you're doing it this kind of style? So when you're doing it a bowl like this, you don't actually want to fill up the whole thing. So basically, this is all you need. This is about 1 tablespoon, but that's a little bit too much. And I'm just gonna put a little bit more. And try to get just the bigger leaf. Okay, so you can see I don't actually fill up the bottom bowl that like before. Even though this is bigger bowl, but I'm actually using less. In fact, I almost feel like I'm putting it a little bit too much. And the reason why, when it comes to like bowl brewing, you are supposed to just let it sit until it opens. Okay, just let it sit like that, and eventually, when it's finished, open up everything. It's going to fall to the bottom of the bowl, and then you can enjoy it slowly. So while we are waiting for this to open up, I'm also going to show you how to brew using a normal teapot. So most people is going to use this type of teapot if you're not using the Kung Fu style. Now, the first step is the same. You want to heat up your pot. You don't need to fill up all the way to the top. I just usually just the bottom side. That's usually good enough. Okay. And then it's the same thing. If you want to measure them, you usually about like 1 gram every 50 milliliter. But if you don't have a scale, the same technique, which is like cover the bottom part, I'm going to show you. I'm going to use a scale just to show you that how much leaf I'm going to put. So this is about 4 grams. Yeah, so that's about 4 grams. So I add just an extra 1 gram because I'm more, this is more like the Western style, right? But if you see, I'm putting it just enough to cover the bottom of your pot. Here, this is what it looks like. And I recommend to actually not using boiling water when it comes to Western brewing. Like when it comes to like Kung Fu brewing, you can use boiling because you can just steep it really quick. But when it comes to Western brewing, I will recommend using a little bit lower temperature, which is like around 195. So right now in this kettle it's about 195. And don't fill up your whole pot. I see people all the time where they fill it up all the way to the top of the pot. I will just fill up like right in this line where the spout kind of like connecting to the pot. That's usually where I'm gonna put, right? Yeah, something like in the middle, a little bit over top, it's fine. But definitely do not want to put all the way to the top of your teapot. And the reason because if you fill out all the way and then when you try to pour it, some of this liquid is gonna come up from the side. Unless if you using like a really fancy handmade master teapot that won't let that happen, but most of the time it will cause a problem when you try to pour it. So usually just fill out like half or a little bit like right below this line. That's usually the right amount of water. And the nice thing about using a glass, glass for like an oolong usually is not my favorite, but if this is for this purpose trying to show you how much tea and how much water, this kind of like really helpful. So a lot of time just pay attention on how the liquid color change, right? So as the color change to the way you've seen it earlier, then that's usually the steeping time is over. So I will say it's about 2 minutes to 3 minutes. Honestly, have fun with it. Don't rely too much on timer. But if you really want to rely on timers, do about 3 minutes, right? That 3 minutes will be good. But most of the time, rely on your sense, just kind of your instinct. Look at the color of the liquid, right? Now, the good news is when you get a good tea like our tea, there is a lot more flexibility on how much you can brew them. You can brew it a little bit stronger, you can brew it a little bit lighter. It should taste good regardless how you do it. I have tested all of our tea to make sure that they're not super sensitive with the heat. You know, you can go a little bit over, you can go a little bit under. So that's why I like to say 2 to 3 minutes, 3 to 4 grams. So it should be very easy. Now going back to our bowl, that's really what you wanted. It's beautiful, beautiful. And when all of the leaf fall to the bottom, you can kind of like start like sipping it. That's why when it comes to bowl brewing, if you want to enjoy it quicker, you know, a lot of time, I wouldn't use boiling water. As soon as it's open, it's ready to go, and you can just like, I mean, some people don't like using bowl brewing because when you try to sip it, there's some tea leaf might come to you, but that's just part of the experience. You know, this is the old traditional style. This is the grandpa style. So a little bit tea leaf, you know, it's okay. It's your own bowl. Perfect. And this is the simplest way. All right, let's go back to this one. This is about, you can see it's all of the tea leaf is open up, right? And you want to make sure you pour out the whole thing. All right, so you see that? This is when you know that you brew it perfectly. And the color looks a little bit darker than the way I do it earlier, and that's okay. Like I said, this is a good tea. This is, especially for such an affordable tea, this is crazy good. Very, very good. You want to know that your Taiwanese tea is good or not, it's usually how much it coats your tongue. Taiwanese tea are famous for their high mountain tea. So with high mountain tea, they tend to be a little bit more silky, a little bit more oily. It coats your tongue better than any other tea. Should have like really refreshing and lingering, fruity and floral notes. You know. All right. It's amazing. So the next one, I'm gonna show you how to brew like Taiwanese oolong that is like roll into like a tiny bowls. One of my new favorite high mountain oolong right now, which is Chilai San, is fairly unknown for a high mountain. This is like our newest favorite high mountain oolong from Taiwan. And again, less sometimes is better. I've seen people put about 5 grams of this tea. That is way too much, especially if you're drinking it alone. So it's a waste. The most I will put is 3 grams. So I'm gonna show you what 3 grams looks like. So the first step before you put the tea into your gaiwan, it's always the same thing. You want to heat up your gaiwan. This is great for consistency of the water temperature. Imagine if it's like during winter time where it's like cold, or like if you are indoor with like a really strong AC, your gaiwan is gonna be freezing cold, and then when you put the water, it's gonna affect the temperature. So it's always a good practice for you to heat up your gaiwan first, or your teapot. Now, if you don't have a water temperature, or like if you don't have a way to measure your water temperature, just like boil your water and basically let it sit for like about a minute or so to just cool it down slightly to like around 195. This is about 3 grams, barely covered. Less is better for this one. By doing this, it will make the next infusion faster. Alright, and it's also gonna kind of get rid of some impurity. I really don't care about that much. It's a culture thing, I think. A lot of people don't care. But I do it a lot because it's become like a habit now. And this usually doesn't have that much flavor, so I'm just gonna dump that. I'm gonna open up that flavor. And I'm not really counting on my head anymore. At least nowadays, I no longer count it. I used to count it maybe like 30 to 40 seconds. But nowadays, it's just instinct. When you do it so much, you kind of know when the tea leaf is ready. Now, actually, while we're waiting for that, I'm also going to do that with here, just to show you the difference in this, like the amount of tea leaf that I'm gonna put. So, same thing, I'm just gonna add about 1 gram, and then so about 4 grams. So you're gonna see I like barely cover the bottom of the pot. So that's 4 grams. So I like to take the time where I'm waiting for my tea to do something else. You know, that's kind of a good habit when you're serving people. Either you can wash their cups, or you can like feed your tea pads. Your goal is to steep it to the point where the tea leaf is like just barely open. You see that? The tea leaf just open. That's about 30-40 seconds. Again, that timing, sometimes it depends on the material of your gaiwan, your water temperature, how much you put. So don't rely on that too much. It's just a guideline. So as long as the color of your tea looks like this, then you have done a good job. Now, first thing you want to do is always smell the liquid. It should make you happy. It's really simple. If we smell it, it makes you happy, then you know you have done a good job. Now the third infusion, you want to brew a little bit longer than the second infusion, but a little bit quicker than the first infusion. And again, if I want to brew it quicker though, I just put less water into the gaiwan. Just say if I'm drinking alone and I want to like extend this to like 7, 8, 9, even 10 infusion. You can do that by just putting less amount of water to your gaiwan, and you control the steeping time by playing with the amount of water. So you don't always want to fill up to the lid. After you're doing this many times, you just know like what is the steeping time. So your goal is always kind of like the color of the liquid need to be as consistent as possible. Now we're gonna use this teapot. So same thing. Wow, it's a little bit cold now, which means I definitely need to rinse the tea now, because I want to make sure that the pot itself is kind of like warm. So how do we do this? Very simple. Don't fill up the whole pot, just like barely cover the leaf, and pour it out immediately. And because this is Western brewing, I feel like it's easier if you just lower the temperature to 195. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna lower the temperature to 195 instead of 205, or like 90 degrees Celsius. So 90 degrees Celsius. We can give this a try. Definitely have no flavor because the tea leaf is not open yet. You can see how much leaf I put. So this is a little bit lower temperature. And same thing, you don't want to fill up your pot. As soon as it hits the bottom of this spout, I usually stop, right? And I'm just gonna wait. It's gonna take about 3 to 4 minutes. You can see the leaf is already opened up, and that's when you know that your tea is ready. So you see what I mean? So if you fill up too much water, some water will come out of the lid. So I recommend you to put it like right around the spout area. And you can see it's completely open now. This is the perfect color, to be honest with you. Very like kind of like gold light gold color. Wow. It smells almost completely different thing. Right now it smells more like sweet melon ice cream vanilla kind of like quality now. That's a 195. Again, for beginners, I recommend to use lower temperature. Just it's harder to mess up. But if you've been brewing tea often like me, you can use boiling water because it's quicker. You can bring out a lot more complexity. You just have to know how much water and how quick you have to do it. But in the beginning, to be safe, just do 195 and open up the lid, and it's very difficult to mess up if you're doing it that way. I always tell people like whatever video, a lot of them is a guideline to just give you understand how it works. But every year they always change. The season change. There are tea that I thought I will be doing it the same way with the year before, and then I realized the flavor just a little bit off, so I have to like readjust my brewing time or like, and then after that your body just kind of like instinctively intuitively know on how to brew them. As soon as you just figure it one time, the muscle memory is incredible. But every year you kind of have to readjust that. Other than that, really, just kind of like keep practicing. If you have any questions, shoot me an email or put a comment in this video. Um, please subscribe to this video. My goal is to get 1,000 subscribers by next year. Well, next year is almost here, but in 12 months. So hopefully share this video to other people and like the channel and turn on the notification. Check out the link at the end of this video. It's a beginner video on how to make Japanese green tea. So similar with this, but it's actually for Japanese green tea. Again, thank you again. Happy holidays and stay safe.